Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Heart of the Swarm broadcast brought to you by DOOMeSports and SC2Links.com. Today we have spawning in the lower left-hand corner of the map, Cloud Kingdom, in the blue trunks from the Team Liquid, none other than Snute. Spawning in the upper right-hand corner of the map from the Team FXO, he's also known as the Ambitious Terran. It is Strelok. And this is action from the ZOTAC EU Cup Finals. And if you're unfamiliar with the ZOTAC EU Cup, I do suggest you Google it and check it out. It is a weekly tournament for 100 EU, and I am one of the featured casters on the English broadcast, and it happens at 9 AM Eastern Standard Time. You can usually find us on twitch.tv/basetradeTV, and it's usually a pretty good time. I mean, we do see the cream of the crop of the EU scene turning out. As you can see, of course, Snute and Strelok here in the finals. And this is actually the final match of their series. And what happens is you see a open stage that goes through a series of rounds. And it's all best of ones. Leads up to a grid stage, which is round best of threes. And a final best of five in the grand finals. And this is a very special treat that we are getting to see today. Strelok here going for a relatively common opener in the matchup. Barracks followed by Refinery. Sometimes you can see it on 12-12 for players to get their Reapers out relatively soon. And on the other foot over here, Snute going for Hatchery first. Very common, I guess, for zergs to be continuing to use this Wings of Liberty style opener. Not going for really any type of crazy things like 10 pools against the Terran player. Although we did see Life throwing a variety of really wild builds up at MLG. Regardless, though, we do see Strelok now taking a lot of gas, and curious to see if it will actually be that common Reaper opener that we're seeing out of so many players. I do know that Strelok is one of the players that's going exclusively for mech in almost every single matchup, which is pretty telling of his thoughts on the buffs that Terran has received in Heart of the Swarm, considering that Hellbats are really good right now. Widow Mines can really hold off any type of early aggression in the early stages of the game. And the simple fact that tanks are ballers, they're pretty much one of the best units in the game. And Strelok has no fears at placing this command center down at the natural underneath the vision of that Overlord. And the Overlord's actually going to spot that first Reaper is on the way. So it's going to be up to Snute to try and react to this. Curious to see if he'll be using his first 100 gas to go for Ling speed, or if he'll try to be transitioning into something else. Considering that he's already made a few Lings on the map, going to be placing a Spine Crawler down at the natural. It's pretty much gonna be only Ling speed at this point that's possible. But I could be wrong. Certainly could be wrong there in that regard. But first Reaper has made its way into the base, and this is pretty much why you need that Ling speed early on to deal with these types of early pressures that can come from the Terran player. The Spine Crawler, of course, is a good defensive measure in the event that he does try to make his way into the mineral line. But we do see the effects of that combat drugs now regenerating health on that Reaper. And the follow-up back at home from Strelok, typical. Making a factory here with the reactor will enable him to get Hellions out very quickly. Of course, we do see the metabolic boost at Ling speed now being produced, and no workers on gas pulled off completely there. Two Reapers have joined the fray, and the first one will pop up and see that these queens are there. Now, Reapers can't take a queen on just by themselves, especially with this Ling support threatening. But if you are able to isolate a queen, back out, heal your Reapers, then move back in, sometimes you can actually pick off a queen in this situation. But Snute being very proactive with his queen to defend. And Strelok's going to be adding on a starport here, swapping his factory over to that reactor and making the first two Hellions right off the bat. So the fact that Strelok's gone for a quicker gas here without going for stim is going to signal to me that he's going to want to be going for mech rather than for bio play. But of course, as I said that, he is adding the tech lap on to his barracks there. And there's still the possibility to see Banshees out in the field. That's certainly something that we could be seeing. But Snute's not really caring. He's saying, okay, I know you've taken your natural. Don't really have any Overlords in position to see your main. Now moving these two out to spread, but he's content with just taking the third base, getting his metabolic boost finished, and then being defensive with the Spine Crawler, and really only a handful of Lings. He's only got 4. They've been in the main base now, moving their way out onto the field, but not really trying to take any watchtowers proactively, really being very conservative with his units, and it is actually going to be Banshee play. As we see now, first Banshee in production, continuing to make... it's not going to continue to make Hellions. It's going to be 2 Widow Mines on the way. The Widowmine icon kind of blends into the SCV and Depot icon. It's actually kind of weird how they appear before the SCV, but that's just what it is. So the Zerglings are going to make their way across the map as scouts die in a fiery death, and see the fact that Strelok has not gone for any type of early third base on the low ground. And this Overlord actually isn't in position over a common area where you'd see Zergs trying to spot when any type of aggression from the Terrans coming. And it actually is going to be too many Banshees. One Raven will be following that first initial Banshee on the field. And all of these units are making their way across the map to try and posture at the third base, which actually Strelok isn't moving in there because he's being distracted by this potential Ling run by that's coming in. And Snute can definitely take down that depot if he focuses all of his Lings onto that. A Widowmine is now actually going to be picked off. In addition to this, the Hellions are going to come in and roast those Lings, and the two Widowmines are forced to borrow. But what Snute has done here is bought time for his third base to go up pretty much uncontested. And the Ling pack is still staying up here to the north side of the base, or north side of the map. Strelok posturing up with the Reapers and the Hellions at the third base, but Snute immediately pulls his Rose back. Looking at the tech of Snute, he's actually going to be finishing up his lair now. Looks like the third and fourth gases have been taken at the natural and the main. And now the Reapers and Hellions are posturing up here against these Queens. The one Banshee is actually going to focus firing down drones, and will this Queen fall? It will fall, but Lings are going to run in. Can they get a surround down on these Hellions? Breaks around there from Snute, going to be forcing the Hellions out. Can he actually get these other two Hellions? In addition to this, he can, and the Banshee's forced to pull back. Auditor being used there to reclaim that watchtower. But now, looking back at the unit counting station here, all Strelok has is a Banshee, a Viking, and a Raven. A couple of Widowmines will posture at the front, but he's going to crash back into these supply depots, and Strelok's just started his third base. Oh my gosh, and the choice is going to be Spire from him here in this situation. Only a couple of Lings are going to remain back to the front. They're going to have to be very careful of those Widowmines. One attack is triggered, but does splash damage against that Raven, and Hellbats are going to be away. Strelok is going full on mech. Yes, this is his choice here, making two tanks at a time. Only one Hellbat able to meet. He could definitely make another one if he wanted to, but he is going to be going for that +1. Beautiful upgrades as well. Auto turret being taken out at the Xel'Naga tower there. Snute's adding on a macro hatch into his main base and taking his fourth at the same time. Huge macro plays coming out from him. He's being so bold and completely unafraid in all these situations being thrown at him so far in this game. And Strelok is going to continue his tank production hopefully after. Yes. Oh, no. Actually going to be adding on Thors. Did he catch wind of the Spire? No. Has not spotted the Spire yet, but of course, it is going to finish, and Snute's going to have enough for about 12 mutas in just a second. Oh my gosh. Only going to make 6 because, okay, a little bit hindered by Larva there. But he's actually continuing to mix in drones. And alright, there we go. 13 mutas in total on the way. Looking back at the base of Strelok. He doesn't have any turrets up, doesn't even have an engineering bay. Good thing we have this structures tab to spot it out, and no, we see no engineering bay on the way. A couple of Lings here are spotting the Widowmines. Pretty cool little move there. And has Strelok actually seen these mutas yet on the field? No scan has gone on the main base, so we can't definitively say yes or no. The Widowmines going to be wasting, perhaps, maybe not wasting, but at least covering these mutas as they continue to move in. The Viking will spot them now, and here's got to be panic time mode for Strelok. Of course, he's got Thors. The one will need to make its way back to the main base, but Snute has so many mutas on the field. One big shot is going to go off on them immediately, but there's just too many for one Thor to handle. 2 Thors to handle. Perhaps he's certainly adequate in this situation. Gotta be so careful of these Widowmines. Has the potential to ruin these Mutalisk's day. And 1 splash, 2 splash going to go off. Only 2 mutas going down. Thor volleys continue to push in, but at least he has been able to deny this third base. Meanwhile, a drop has gone off in the main base. Hellbat is going to be roasting Zerglings. Has 5 kills currently on him, and the Lings are going to be stacking up on top of it. Mutas will simply clean that off. And that medevac was forced to retreat back out. And looking at the composition from Strelok, this is pure mechanical units. A second armory has been added on, but he doesn't necessarily have the gases required to upkeep this sort of play. In the main base, Snute adding on Evolution Chamber, Roachhorn, and an Infestation Pit, in addition to taking this hatchery down in the lower right-hand corner of the map. Snute's going into full-on macro mode, and this is some really impressive stuff we're seeing out of the Liquid Zerg player. 93 drones currently on the field. He can focus the rest of his larva on pretty much any army units that he wants to. He knows that Strelok's going for mech, and he's just exploiting the mobility of it here with these Mutalisks, who are going to take some shots off from the Widowmines, but they are going to try to magic box on top of the Thors, and let me actually catch the HP of the Thors here. they're actually not doing a whole lot to the mutas. As you can see, a few are going to drop, but at the cost of 2 Thors, this is certainly not what Strelok wants to do. And, oh my gosh, Snute doing a great job at keeping that Thor count down. 12 more Mutalisks are in production. And, you know, he's not getting any flyer carapaces, so it doesn't really signal to me that he wants to really stay on this, but I think he feels like he may be able to end the game, and that's why he's continuing to make these Mutalisk numbers grow and grow, and he's... Oh, okay. So, Snute even transferring drones at the exact correct time to take advantage of this hatchery as soon as it pops. His 4th base is got a great economy going. 3rd base is fully saturated, almost fully saturated at this point. And man, things are looking pretty good for Snute, even going for the evolving locust upgrade to get swarm hosts, and pretty much in major turtle mode right now. The Widowmines are going to shoot up on lings. One is going to fire at a dead zerg lane, but if he can limit the gas intake of Strelok, this is exactly what Snute wants to do. Even taking down mules in this situation, completely devastating. Oh man, a couple mules are going to move in here, taking huge shots from those Widowmines. So many turrets are being focused down. The Overseer joining the fray to destroy the Widowmines, and the SCVs need to immediately be evacuated from the base. And Strelok being pulled in every single direction, every direction that he does not want to be. He certainly wants to be moving forward on the field, and he's actually going to go with it here. Just going to go with the flow, but will he ever be able to stop the muta count? 15 mutas on the field. Comparably, he's only got 3 Thors for anti-air. A Raven, of course, is in the field. Does have a Super Missile available to him, but oh my gosh. For Strelok. I mean, he has forced the mutas to move back, but if Snute just comes in and magic boxes over top again, what can Strelok really do to deflect this? That lone Thor is going to get focused on immediately, but is he going to use a secret missile? Yes. Secret missile? No, it is going to be point defense drones. It's not in range of these Mutalisks. Oh my gosh, absolutely devastating here for Strelok. Lings are going to flood into the 3rd base as well, and there are no drops going out around anywhere on the map. Even if they were, Snute could just evacuate Lings, or evacuate the drones to various locations, which is already established. But okay, the Mutalisk count has been severely hindered here, down to 2 total in the field. But he switched his tech, going now into Swarm Host, which will benefit off of upgrades from ranged units if you did not know. Actually, Snute doesn't have this. He's going for melee upgrades, so this Greater Spires now being more Father Destructions on the way. Snute has another base over here to the western side of the map. And Strelok is forced to hit from every single angle. He's still not aware of what's down there in the lower right. Locusts are being morphed here as the Swarm Hosts are pulling back. And I mean, this is kind of a scary little push coming out of Strelok. And being that he's eliminated the Mutalisks on the field, it's going to be a little worried. Despite the fact that he does have this savior base down here. This one for West is definitely going to be taken out. Swarm Hosts now are going to be taken out as well. And look at the physics on those things. Oh my gosh, complete devastation. Fireballs of Swarm Hosts disintegrating into the map. Wow, these are definitely a lot of losses that I believe Snute really wanted to take units build here. Strelok's put 185 units, but it doesn't actually matter. The income for Snute is staying very consistent in the situation. He's trying to retake that base to the lower south position. He's got this one in the lower right, which has not been scouted out by Strelok. And in the meantime, Strelok hasn't taken a 4th. Of course, he's just added on the last command center, but that was, you know, a really, really effective attack from Strelok, and pretty much the only thing that he could have done to stay in the game, eliminating those Mutalisk counts, taking it down to pretty much nothing. That was definitely a bold move, and something that's going to give him a little bit more time, but you know, that window is definitely closing, because as Corruptors are making their way on the field, and these episodes are going to call shortly. In the Union Counting Station, there aren't any windows yet on the map. Corruptors have not popped yet. Here we go, Strelok's moving in position, but the Locusts are going to be focusing down the Thors, and as long as you can limit the AA, I mean, what's going to contest these? What's going to contest these Broodlords? Absolutely nothing. There's a Banshee. Yeah, that doesn't hit air. 2 Thors. Okay, not enough. I mean, if you're able to get a lot of Thors on the field, I'm talking like 6, 7, 8 Thors, and you switch them over into the high impact payload, then yes, you can start shooting down Broodlords very, very fast and very, very efficiently, but that's simply not going to be the case here. For Strelok, as more and more Corruptors are being morphed out onto the field, Locusts are in position. There we go. They're just going to deflect this mech army. In the meantime, we have a Ling run by going up to the 3rd base, which can potentially ruin the day here for Strelok. I mean, his mech army is being pushed back by 3 units. And speaking of 3 units, 3 more Broodlords are going to be morphed. And the Ling run by doing devastating damage, incredibly hindering the economy for Strelok. That income is going to be dropping so low in regards to minerals, because he is starting to mine out here at the natural, being forced over to that location really is putting a damper on his day. And Snute is continuing to mine from this lower right base uncontested. His base to the west has been recreated. And here we go. We're going to see a Broodlord Swarm Host army. This is something that people stipulated in the beginning of the beta as going to be very, very difficult to deal with as a Terran player, considering the amount of free units that are going to be on the field. But I'm thinking it's going to be a tough situation. Simply based on the fact that he only has 2 Vikings out in the field, 1 forward. There's just simply not enough anti-air for him to really contest his army, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him just, you know, tape out the GG when he sees the Broodlords. What can he really do? There is the first sign that Broodlords are on the field, and he's really just going to be able to go for a base trade, and that's the decision that Strelok's gone to. You know, Strelok is a very definitive player. He's a very instinctual player, and he senses the fact that his only chance is to move forward with this army, but even Widow Mines are not good enough to stop the Disruptors. Thors are trying to do their best to target down. He's going to be moving forward with tanks and Hellbats against an army that's, you know, it's in the air, and these things don't shoot up. At least not yet. Here we go. Swarm hosts are in a position back at home. They're trying to defend it. This one he's adding on more and more spine callers. The eventual attack that will be moving in. Tanks are moving in at that base to the west here. Should be able to take that out relatively easily. But once again, what is he going to be able to do against these Broodlords? This continuous assault from the Swarm host, from the Locust. I mean, Strelok is moving in now, taking down the spine calls before they're able to morph. This is a slight win for him, but oh my gosh. 5 Broodlords are in production, and nothing's going to be able to stop them from appearing out on the field. It's simply never going to be enough, and now with the unit producing structures under siege, the starports, the factories that are able to produce Thors, the Snute just moving in with a dominating position here. The Broodlords now have more than the natural, and of course the Hellbats are going to be able to roast this hatchery down. But what are they going to be doing against these Broodlords? It's basically just a race against time. And time is on Snute's side. Yes, it is. Because Strelok's still not aware of the base in the lower right. Even if he does go in the full-on base trade situation, he's not going to be able to make his way over there because these units simply are never going to last. All the Hellbats have been cleaned up. The tanks are now under fire from these Broodlords. And looking at what Snute's been able to do to the main base here, there's nothing that Strelok can do. His supply has fallen so significantly low. 42 army supply against the 127. Now the Corruptors move in. This will be the final nail in the coffin, even throwing corruption down on those Vikings. And here we go, Thors being focused down by Swarm, by the Locust. So many free units on the field for Snute. All we need is infested Terrans to make this a party. And there's the GG from Strelok, as you realize that Snute simply has too much on the map. He's too well prepared for what he's capable of doing. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been, once again, Doom Esports bringing you another broadcast. And it's also been brought to you by, of course, sctoonings.com, the best website for finding the distributed network of StarCraft 2 videos on demand. Hope you enjoyed the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. Leave a comment on YouTube and feel free to follow me at Doom Esports on Twitter.